is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
We're back here with another episode of The Breakdown here on Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Matt Hamilton. That's Chase Daniel. And Chase, Chiefs are headed to the Super Bowl again. Fourth time in 5 years, just the third franchise to pull that off. What stood out to you most about that win over the Ravens?
Well, I think the biggest thing, first of all, like Mahomes, right, is a wizard. And 6 AFC Championship games in 6 years, 4 Super Bowls with a chance to win a third. Like, he's on a similar to better path than Tom Brady. I put out a video the other day. Is Patrick Mahomes the next Tom Brady? And it's just like what he's doing, especially in the playoffs, right? You look at his playoffs over 17 career games, so a full season, right? 17 career games. It is, the numbers are astronomical. Almost 40 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions. Hasn't thrown an interception in the last 7 playoff games.
Which is an NFL record.
The NFL record. He's averaging over 6 yards a rushing attempt, which playoff pat in full effect. And you just go on and on and on. And it was no bigger of a stage than when they had to go on the road this past Sunday in Baltimore to play against one of the best defenses of the last 4 to 5 years, just pure numbers wise. This wasn't just a yearly good Ravens defense. This was like the last 4 or 5 years. You put them up against any defense in the entire league over that time span, and they were amazing. And the first 2 drives, in my opinion, to go down to get 14 points. Now, I know they only scored 3 the rest of the way, but those 2 drives sort of set the tone. And it wasn't some crazy play here and there other than the touchdown throw to Kelsey and then the scramble around by Kelsey, which we'll show on this. There's 2 of the plays. But it was just like, hey, run the ball, take completions, get the ball out of your hands, don't take big sacks, don't turn the ball over, don't have any negative plays, stay ahead of the chains, be good on third down. And it seems easy to say that and then go ahead and do it all, but it's a different level when you can go out there and execute the way they've executed, especially the first 2 drives of the game. They sort of held on as the end, and then the ice in the game to MVS, the Chiefs receiver of all people. We'll show that as well. I'm stealing all your thunder, but it's like those are the plays that you got to make in playoffs. And I think the biggest thing that separated the Chiefs from the Ravens was just the championship experience, right? Like, the Chiefs have played in so many playoff games. Lamar Jackson, 2-4 in playoff games. Okay, 1 against C.J. Stroud, rookie head coach, rookie quarterback. But when you have to win and you're at home, you can't get a better scenario. They only scored 17 points. And then you can't put up more than 7. So it's just all that plays into it. 4 personal foul penalties by the Ravens, 3 turnovers by the Ravens, 2 in the red zone. The list goes on and on and on. And people are like, oh, it was a boring game. Yeah, right. It wasn't a boring game. It was an amazing game because there's a lot of defense going on. There's a lot of strategy going on. No bigger than Steve Spagnuolo going against that Ravens offense.
Yeah, and you mentioned it with Mahomes, and we've kind of talked about it here throughout. His ability, I do give him a lot of credit because you're right. It sounds easy on the face of it, but to do what he's done and manage these games to protect the football, when you have the talent and you're physically capable of doing the things he can do, you have to give him a lot of credit because he's picked his spots so well and he hasn't turned the ball over at all. And he talked about it after the game too, how he understands full well that this defense is going to be the reason they repeat this year. It's going to be him making the plays he has to make, but the strength of this defense.
It's exactly. I was gonna mention it, but the post game press conference told me a lot about Patrick Mahomes and how he's evolved into the player he is today. It's not always about the stats, and he's had to learn. He said it. He's had to learn how to. Hey, don't force a ball into double or triple coverage when I can probably make the throw, but it's a little bit dangerous. You don't need that with this defense. This defense is the best defense he's ever had, and I think he's learned how to play. And that's a scary thought for a lot of people around the league, especially the 49ers, when the best player in the world continues to get better, right? Like, that's the biggest thing. And mentally for him, too, he's taken his game to another level. A lot of at the line checks, a lot of getting into the right plays. There's a huge third down, a 3rd and 5 conversion to Rashee Rice, where he goes in, he checks to a shallow cross, 10-yard gain. Like, just stuff like that, moving the back around, protections. We've delved into it a little bit last week, but just his overall game has raised, and it's a scary thought, honestly.
Yeah, and I think that's what separated him now from other great quarterbacks. There are a lot of, I don't want to necessarily bring up names, but there are a lot of quarterbacks where you look at it like, oh, this quarterback was so great. Why did he only win one? And what happened? And, you know, you go back to some of the moments and some of the big games that they lost, they were trying to do too much. They were forcing those throws.
Totally.
They weren't, you know, letting the talent around them do their jobs and win. So it is such a credit to Mahomes. And let's dig into some of these plays now, because you talked about them. Some incredible visuals we got from this Chiefs offense. Let's start with the Kelsey touchdown. What did you see here?
Yeah, I mean, I love that it's a slot formation. I thought they did two things in this game. The Chiefs did. They were in a lot of 4x1 formations, whether it was quads or trips with the back to the trip side. It really put the defense in a lot of bad spots because they hadn't seen that a lot. And the other formation was this formation right here, slot formation. And a lot of times they were throwing the ball down the field in slot formation. What does slot formation gives you? It gives you a man zone read. Corners over, it's man. You can tell all the way across, it's man. So Mahomes knows when he drops back, he's got to hold the free safety. And all this is a little out and up by Kelsey. And quite honestly, like if you actually look at the route, it's not a great route. Like it's just not a great route. But the throw is what makes it. You can see his vision pre-snap was left. He was able to get his feet set, going to the right to make this like back hip bone. We call it usually back shoulder. He put it on his back hip, and you can't throw it. You can't throw it any better. Like this defense is really good for a reason. They are all over people, and it's all pro Travis Kelce versus all pro Kyle Hamilton. Who's going to win the matchup? And you could tell like a bunch of these, Kelsey's spiking the ball. He's super into it. He's super like ready for it. And look, they're just running crossers. This is an alert for Mahomes. And he knows like if you have off coverage, Kyle Hamilton, like what's the worst that can happen is an incompletion. Like I trust myself to do that, especially down here in the red zone. And I just love this play design. Like they're trying to run like drive basic bursts, like shallow cross with it, with a clear out by Noah Gray, I think 83. And this is just an alert. And he's like, hey, if you get man, I'm throwing it up to you. I'm throwing it up to you. And then look, Travis Kelce, amazing game too. 11 catches, 11 targets, 116 yards and a touchdown. And he's starting to play really good ball as the season continues to roll on for the Chiefs.
And that's the thing. He looks healthier than he has all year. And that unselfish decision to say, hey, I'm going to sit out week 18. I'm going to lose my streak of 1,000-yard season so that I can get healthy for the playoffs and you know, give my team the best ever when it really matters. I think that we could end up looking back at that decision as a decision that maybe turned this Chiefs season around for this offense.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. I think that, you know, a lot of people were saying, hey, Travis Kelce's getting old. He is, and you can tell he's probably lost a step in straight line speed, but where he makes it up is his elusiveness, running routes. He's always able to get open. He understands the timing in Patrick Mahomes' head, and I think obviously like passing Gronk and Tom Brady for most touchdowns in postseason history is a huge feat, and it shouldn't go unnoticed. So got to give him his flowers there. But just an overall great performance by the Chiefs offense.
Absolutely. And now we got to move on to the play. This is just absolutely ridiculous from both Mahomes and Kelsey. As soon as I saw this, I was watching the game with my dad. I'm like, I can't wait to hear Chase break this one down. So take it away.
Well, you saw the pre-snap, right? They were 4x1. They did this a couple times. They ran either Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Isaiah Pacheco out. If no one ran with them, they knew they had zone. Okay, and that was their way of getting it rather than lining up at empty. You can see here, this was sort of their game plan. They wanted to get into a lot of 4x1 formations. Mahomes sees it, checks to the play that he wants to get to, whether it's him just memorizing or Andy Reid calling it into him, moves Clyde Edwards-Helaire over. And quite honestly, like Justin Watson up the middle, they're playing too high. And right here, like Kelsey runs the wrong route. He ain't supposed to run this route. He's supposed to have a basic route and fit in behind, at least what I think he's supposed to do, fit in behind Justin Watson, where there will be a second window throw. And you see here, Mahomes is like looking downfield, and nothing's open. Everyone's double covered, right? Like the guy underneath James, Watson's double covered, and then Kelsey's just sort of sitting there like, hey, what do we do? What do I do? I ran the wrong route. And you could tell like him and Justin Watson pre-snap, they were talking about it. Justin Watson was trying to look at him and say, hey, you got this. And Kelsey just said, hey, you know what? I'm going to get the ball because I'm Travis Kelce when I run the wrong route. And then this Mahomes play, I think it was 8.76 seconds that he scrambled for, that he moved around. And look, it's hard for a defense. They call it plaster. Okay, what does plaster mean? Plaster means like just on your guy, follow him around. Okay, so it's hard for defenses to plaster guys in man-to-man, which they're sort of having to do once his scramble drills come into effect, for 8.5 seconds. And then obviously the full layout, I mean, full duck mode, I think he just didn't even throw. I think he pushed it. Mahomes did. Took a shot here too by Kyle Van Noy. But I mean, just one of the hallmark plays, right, of this season so far, especially third down, keeps this drive going. They go down, get points, get touchdown, and just a great catch overall by Kelce.
And I think the thing that makes it even more impressive seeing it on coaching tape is that when Mahomes releases this ball, the defender's inside of Kelce and he has to work back around him to get to it. Look at this.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane. And honestly, like, I know Mahomes for a fact was trying to make that throw. It wasn't like some throwaway. And that just speaks to so many postseasons, so many regular seasons, so many training camps, so many times in the backyard with Kelce, or when he's throwing down in Texas at Mahomes' spot down there, or when they're putting in work after practice. All these little things add up. So if you're a young quarterback or young receiver or tight end, listen, like, all those reps matter. And you never know when you're going to be sitting here 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6 in the AFC Championship game, needing to pull out some backyard stuff. And right here, Mahomes is the best in the league at it.
It really is unbelievable, and we hadn't seen it as much in these playoffs, the backyard stuff, but we got one of the best ones at one of the biggest moments. And there wasn't a lot of offense the rest of this game, but our last play that we'll end with here, when the Chiefs needed to close out the game, you put the dagger in Mahomes' hands and let him go to work.
The dagger.
What stood out to you on this one?
Well, honestly, obviously the play. And I didn't realize it, and they didn't release it till NFL Films did, I think the day after the game, or maybe yesterday or Monday. One of these days they released it, and it was Mahomes walking over to the sideline like Joe Cool, calm, and collected, and talking to Nagy saying, "Give me the ball. Give me the ball. Give me the ball." Like, so calm and cool. And Nagy got his thing. He's like, okay. And then you see here, like, I hate this type of coverage. They're playing a cover 0 hole coverage. I think you've done enough of these with me to understand that when teams do this, it is the dumbest thing you could possibly do. It's a cover 0, so every DB on the field has man-to-man coverage, and you're pressed. The safety comes out of the middle of the field. Both linebackers don't blitz. You're not hot. You're not hot. And so it just gives Mahomes a little bit of an extra tick, an extra second, because you're only rushing 4. And of course, like, I don't even think MVS is number 1 on this route. Like I think it's the inside guy. I think that's Rashee Rice. And Mahomes is like, well, if you're going to 0 blitz me right here, like, all right, I see the free safety jump Rashee Rice. Man, I am launching this. And this is what we call, and what Andy Reid calls, airtime, right? Like, just put air on the ball. Let our guy run and go to it. That's what he always used to say to myself and Alex Smith when we were there. Just put it up. Just put it up. Just let it loft it. He does it right here. I mean, this is honestly a great throw, but an even better catch. And like, what better of a way, and what more of a fitting way to go to the freaking Super Bowl than a Chiefs receiver making a big time catch in the biggest game of the year, when all that's been talked about the entire year are the Chiefs receivers' drops. Like, so cool for MVS to be able to have this moment.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal catch. And the throw, too. Mahomes, he is getting some pressure there. He can't even step it. He's fading away a little bit as he releases that. But as he said, puts air under it and lets this guy go make a play. It's the, with everything that's happened, with all the issues at receiver, all the talk about the drops, everything else, his confidence hasn't wavered. It hasn't affected the way he's approached these big moments. He still gives his guys chances to make plays in these spots.
Yeah, and I heard something, I don't know where, but I heard something that maybe it was from Kelce or something on one of these interviews, is like talking about the Chiefs practices and how Mahomes, if they talking about receivers, if the receivers dropped one in practice, or if they dropped one or a few in the game before, he was constantly saying to them, I'm going to keep firing it. I'm coming back to you. I'm coming back to you. And it never wavered, when in reality, it probably should have wavered, right? There was a breaking point when Mahomes and Andy Reid got fined for talking about the officials, and rightfully so. But I think he just stuck with it, and he trusts his guy. And this is the biggest play of the season. This right here offensively was the biggest play of the season. They didn't go to Rashee Rice. They didn't go to Travis Kelce. They went to MVS, and he made the play. So awesome job.
Just unbelievable. And again, as we mentioned off the top, another Super Bowl appearance now for the Chiefs. A rematch of the one we saw, the first one for Andy Reid and Mahomes against the Niners. Early thoughts. We're going to go into this a little more in depth next week, but early thoughts on this matchup as we're about a week and a half out now.
Well, I don't know how the 49ers are favored in this game right now, based on what I've seen just from purely 49ers standpoint. They've gotten run over, obviously 2 come from behind victories, but I would argue that might have been more self-induced by the other teams, the Lions and the Packers. So I do think that the Chiefs are battle tested. I think their road to the playoffs or to the Super Bowl has been a more difficult one, going on the road in Buffalo, going on the road in Baltimore. I think those 2 teams are better than Green Bay and Detroit, just being honest with you. So they're battle tested. But I think what it comes down to, honestly, and there's so many different things that we'll talk about next week and that you're going to continue to hear throughout the week. I really think it comes down to the Chiefs defensive line. And I think it comes down to attacking the right side of the San Francisco 49ers offensive line. They have been not great in the nicest of ways. And it's shown even from the center on. And if you're going to put Chris Jones somewhere, let him eat at that 3-tech, at that defensive left 3-tech, over the right guard, right tackle, put him outside, let him rush. And that's sort of what Detroit was able to do early in the game in the first half. And you saw it jumped out to a 24-7 lead or whatever it was, sort of got away from it at the end. But I think Steve Spagnuolo is going to have something up his sleeves. And I just don't know if the 49ers can give Purdy enough time. That's my biggest thing going into this is, yes, Purdy, you have Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, CMC, Juice, Debo, all these great guys. And quite honestly, they're probably the best skill group on the offensive side of the ball in the NFL, and they have been the whole year. Yeah. I don't know if you're going to have time to get to them. So you got to figure out a way to block them up. You got to keep more guys in. And look, Shanahan's a genius in his own right. He's going to figure it out, but that's the biggest matchup I'm looking for.
Yeah, and to your point, you look at even the great plays Purdy made in the second half, the one where he escapes and throws to use check, the big scramble on third down, those all started because the right side of the offensive line completely collapsed, and it's not sustainable to expect to rely on him making those plays down after down if you can't hold up. So that's going to be an interesting layer to watch. And obviously, as you mentioned, the Chiefs, the Niners defense is going to run through a little bit. What have you seen? Because, over the last 3-4 years, there's a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball too. But really the second half stops were more about the fumble, the 2 drops. It was really more about the Lions' offensive mistakes than the Niners really stopping. What did you see? What vulnerabilities did you see in that defense in that game?
Well, I just think obviously like running the football, like right at them, right down the middle. And this is a retooled San Francisco 49ers defensive line. Like, let's not forget about that. They went out and spent a lot of money in the offseason through trades, stuff like that, to be able to get this D-line figured out. And I don't know if they have yet. Now they can get pressure, but this is one of the most static defensive fronts in all of football. They don't do a lot more than rush 4. So I don't think you're going to look at and watch this Baltimore Ravens game and say, oh, we can just rush 4, because that's what Baltimore did in the first half versus the Chiefs, and the Chiefs sort of put it out on them. And then when they started coming after Mahomes, Baltimore, things got a little bit more rough. So you can't just let Mahomes sit back there. You got to pick and choose when to pressure. You got to pick and choose how to pressure. That's a big deal. I mean, do I want to bring 6? Do I want to bring 4 but drop an end? And so that's something that the D coordinator for San Fran is going to have to figure it out, because you got to sort of pick your poison. That's the biggest thing too about this Chiefs offense. Through 3 playoff games, Miami, Buffalo, Baltimore, the Chiefs have only thrown it 12 more times than they ran it. So it's very balanced. It's a very balanced attack. And this is sort of what Andy Reid understands. Like, hey, we got the best player in the world at quarterback, but what wins on the road in the playoffs is a run game and a good defense, and that's what they've been doing.
Absolutely. And I can't believe we still have to wait another week and a half. It's going to be the slowest week and a half ever because I can't wait for this one. But we will be back here next week to dive a little more in depth into the matchup, break it all down for you once again. So thank you everybody for tuning in. For Chase Daniel, I'm Matt Hamilton, and we'll see you guys next week.